Welcome to video 6 in our GBL mini course, and this topic is entitled Insights from GBL Participants. Here what I'm going to do is try and share some of the feedback people and learning people have given after participating in game-based learning sessions with myself and colleagues. And just to put a scope on that, we've been doing this game-based learning stuff for about 10 years. Most weeks we're running a game. Typical game is maybe 20 leaders and managers working in 3 or 4 teams for a half day or a full day. And I'm going to try and distill those insights into just a couple of slides, which I hope you will find useful. Now, insights in game-based learning come from making mistakes and learning from your mistakes. And it reminds me of the two, I think both deceased British comedians, Dudley Moore and Peter Cook, where they had a little dialogue, and Dudley said to Peter, Peter, have you learned from your mistakes? And Peter Cook said, yes, absolutely. I can repeat them almost exactly. So a lot of the learning we get in game-based learning is from making mistakes, but more importantly, from learning from those mistakes as well. So the first thing we say in game-based learning is game-based learning, we're typically playing 3 or 4 rounds, and we form people into teams, and we don't give them too much instruction as to what a team should be, other than we get them to set some values and some goals and some roles. And we often see this pattern, nearly always see this pattern. In the very first round, when we put together in a team, people in a team, they go into what I call hyper communication. Everybody's involved in every decision, and people really actually enjoy that. It really feels like a high performing team, but guess what? They run out of time. So they learn from that, and then round 2, what they often do is they go to the other extreme. They go to what we call over delegation. So they partition and parcel the work up, but they don't talk enough about the work. And when they come to bring it all together, to put it into the system, it doesn't all fit. And then usually by round 3 or round 4, sometimes the slower teams, they've worked this out, that really they do have to delegate, but they have to talk as well. And it's very, very satisfying to see a random group of people put in a team and moving from 2 different naive forms of teamwork into something that looks quite high performing within a few hours. So this is what I call the talk, task, team model. It's another spin on the form, norm, storm, perform, but I think it's very useful. And one of the main learning possibilities of game-based learning in teams is that people can experience what it feels like to be in a high-performing team compared to being in a more chaotic and naive team. So they experience the evolution of effective team working if this is all facilitated properly. Now the second slide contains a wealth of information about the mistakes teams make under pressure. Now I used to present this at the start of sessions, but literally everybody looked at me like I was being crazy. Ken, these are very, very basic mistakes. We never make these mistakes. And then at the end of the session, they'd made all the mistakes. So then I used to present it at the end of the session, but by then there wasn't anything they could do about it, and it was a bit of condemning. So what I do now is I present it in the middle of the sessions, and this gives the teams a chance actually to do something about it. So there's 7 things here that happen every time you put a team under pressure, in my experience. The first thing is teams don't manage their time well. And if you think of an example, if you're running a management meeting and there's 20 decisions and there's 5 minutes to go and you've 10 decisions left, those decisions are probably not going to be your best decisions. So time management, the basic skill of time management and the basic responsibility and role of time management, if you don't have that in your team or in your meetings, then you're going to come a cropper. The second thing is operations. There are some mistakes that you should not make. Mistakes that are silly mistakes, and mistakes that if you've understood things properly or not made assumptions, you won't make. And high-performing teams, they make good mistakes, not stupid mistakes. So there's some operational stuff that you can't afford to get wrong, or things go very bad for you. The third thing we see in game-based learning is we generally bombard teams with information before and, more importantly, during the game-based learning session. And you can almost look at the team's table, and if the team's table is a mess, they're in trouble. If the paper's all over the place, they're in trouble. So if they're not managing the information is managing them. So another fundamental thing about being in a team, you've got to be on top of the information. Maybe somebody in the team needs to be responsible for pulling it all together, or bad decisions will get made. Learning, assumptions can be a killer in learning. Unchecked assumptions is what really kills things. So we're really looking to see high-performing teams doing evidence-based decision making and not making assumptions and clarifying things. So if you make a mistake once, that's fine, but make sure you learn from it. Very common thing in teams is the planning piece tends to be for the wall. The strategy piece goes up on the wall, and then they do something else. And one of the things facilitators I work with love doing is halfway through the game saying to a team, and how does that decision relate to your strategy? You're going to be the Ryanair of finance, and your CEO at the start said you were going to be a premium brand. Run that past me again. How do those two things work? So that is very, very common. Lack of fidelity to the plan or the strategy. If the plan or strategy is wrong, by all means fix it, but don't just ignore it. Roles, whatever way you look at it, a team needs roles. And if the leader tries to do everything, or everybody does everything, then it's general chaos. So that's something that teams find out. Often teams start off, we're not going to have any roles and we're not going to have any leaders. They don't usually get past the second round with that design because it just doesn't work. And the final thing is behaviors and values. We encourage people to define the values of their teams, which may be the values of their organizations if we're doing this in company. But one of the key things is under pressure, that's the only time that values matter. Values don't matter when you're not under pressure. So if one of your values is everybody will have a say, or the customer always comes first, then if you abandon this value under time pressure, then you don't have values at all. And it's amazing how quickly people will abandon their values under pressure. And that's great learning for people. So I've summarized hopefully 10 years experience in these two slides. The evolution of effective teamwork, and secondly, the mistakes teams make under pressure are very simple mistakes, and they're very easily fixed. In the final module in this course, we're going to look at how to facilitate game-based learning effectively, because it just won't happen without the facilitator.